You wake up in the morning and you catch a glimpse of yourself in the bathroom mirror. And something looks different. Not dramatically different, not like you're sick, but your skin has this yellowish tint that wasn't there a year ago. Maybe your eyes look a little duller. Maybe your belly has this puffiness that no amount of walking seems to fix. And you think, well, I'm getting older. That's just what happens. But here's the thing, that's not aging. That is your liver sending you a distress signal, and almost nobody is listening. My name is Margaret, and I've spent years researching how our grandparents and great grandparents stayed resilient through some of the hardest decades in American history, not with fancy supplements or expensive doctors, but with food. Simple, humble, dirt cheap food that they ate because they had to, and that science is now proving was quietly protecting organs that we are destroying with our modern diet. Today, I'm going to walk you through 6 Depression-era foods that your liver is practically begging you to bring back to your kitchen table. And I don't say that for drama. I say it because your liver performs over 500 functions every single day. And right now, in this country, nearly 1 in 3 adults has some degree of fatty liver disease, and most of them have no idea, no symptoms, no warning, just a quiet organ slowly drowning in fat that it was never designed to store. Before we get into the list, I want to ask you something. Do me a favor and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and leave me a comment telling me one food your grandmother used to make that you haven't eaten in years. I read every single comment, and honestly, some of the best research leads I've ever followed came from someone's memory of their grandma's kitchen. So share that with me. Hit the like button too, because it helps other people find this information, and trust me, they need it. Now let me explain what's actually happening inside your liver so you understand why these 6 foods matter so much. Your liver is not just a filter. People say that all the time, oh, the liver filters toxins. And that's true, but it's like saying the ocean is just water. Your liver is a chemical processing plant. It takes everything you eat, drink, breathe, and absorb through your skin, and it decides what to keep, what to convert, what to store, and what to throw away. It produces bile to digest fat. It stores glucose as glycogen for energy. It manufactures cholesterol. Yes, your body makes it. It builds proteins that help your blood clot, and it neutralizes every toxin, every medication, every environmental chemical that enters your body. Now here's the problem. When you overload the liver with processed sugar, seed oils, alcohol, or just too many calories day after day, something shifts. The liver starts converting that excess energy into fat droplets that get trapped inside liver cells. That's what non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is. It's not cirrhosis, it's not hepatitis, it's just fat sitting inside a cell that's supposed to be clean and efficient. And when enough fat accumulates, the cell gets inflamed, it stops working properly, and now you have a liver that can't do its 500 jobs well anymore. Your cholesterol numbers go haywire. Your blood sugar gets harder to control. Your energy crashes after meals. Your belly won't shrink no matter what you do. And your doctor might never mention your liver because the standard blood test, the basic metabolic panel, often doesn't catch it until things are already advanced. That's not your doctor's fault. In a 12-minute appointment with 6 other things to cover, there's no time to explain that the dull ache under your right rib cage is your liver swelling. There's no time to tell you that the food your great-grandmother ate during the Depression wasn't just survival food, it was liver medicine disguised as dinner. So let's get into the 6 foods. And I need you to pay close attention to number 4, because that's the one that surprised me the most in my research, and it's probably sitting in your pantry right now doing absolutely nothing. The first food is beef liver itself. I know, I can already hear some of you groaning, but stay with me here, because this is important. There was a time in this country during the 1930s and 1940s when liver and onions was one of the most common dinners in working-class American homes. It wasn't a delicacy. It wasn't a health food trend. It was what you ate because it was the cheapest cut at the butcher, and your family needed to eat. Mothers in Appalachian coal towns would fry it up in a cast-iron skillet with onions and a little bit of bacon grease, and the whole house would fill with this deep, iron-rich, savory smell that kids could recognize from down the street. It was dense, it was dark, It had that mineral flavor that modern palates have been trained to avoid, but that flavor is the taste of the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. Beef liver contains more bioavailable vitamin A than any other food, not beta-carotene, which your body has to convert, but preformed retinol, which goes straight to work. It contains B12 at levels that make supplements look like a joke. It's loaded with folate, copper, riboflavin, and a compound called choline that your liver desperately needs to process and export fat. Without enough choline, your liver literally cannot move fat out of its cells. It just sits there, accumulating, layer after layer. A study from the University of North Carolina showed that when choline intake drops below adequate levels, fat accumulation in the liver increases significantly, even in people who aren't overweight. That's how important this one nutrient is. Now here's how to eat it if you're not used to it. Start with 3 to 4 ounces, once or twice a week. Soak it in whole milk for 2 to 4 hours before cooking. This pulls out some of the strong metallic flavor and makes it milder. Then cook it in butter or ghee with caramelized onions over medium heat. Don't overcook it. You want it slightly pink in the center, not gray and rubbery. If you absolutely cannot handle the taste, here's what I've seen work beautifully. Grate frozen liver on a cheese grater and mix it into ground beef for meatballs, meatloaf, or chili. You won't taste it, I promise, and your liver will still get every single benefit. The second food is dandelion greens. Now, this one is going to make some of you smile because you remember your grandmother or your great aunt going out into the yard with a paring knife in the spring and cutting those jagged little leaves right out of the lawn. People in rural America during the Depression didn't see dandelions as weeds. They saw them as the first fresh green of the season, free, nutritious, and slightly bitter in a way that tasted like medicine because, in a real sense, it was. Dandelion greens are what herbalists call a cholagogue, which is a fancy word for something that stimulates bile production and bile flow. Bile is what your liver uses to break down and absorb fats. When bile gets sluggish, fat digestion slows down. Toxins that are supposed to leave your body through bile get recirculated and the liver gets congested. Think of it like a drain that's running slow. Dandelion greens are the natural drain cleaner. The active compounds include taraxacin and taraxacarin, which are bitter sesquiterpene lactones that trigger receptors on your tongue, and those receptors send a signal straight to your gallbladder and liver to start producing bile. Research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology has shown that dandelion extract can increase bile secretion and support liver cell regeneration in animal models, and traditional use across European and Native American cultures stretches back centuries. Here's how to use them. Get a bunch of fresh dandelion greens from a farmer's market or a grocery store that carries them. You can also forage them yourself if you're certain the lawn hasn't been sprayed with pesticides or herbicides. Wash them well, chop them and sauté them in olive oil with garlic and a pinch of red pepper flakes, just like you'd cook any bitter green. You can also eat them raw in a salad with a sharp vinaigrette to cut the bitterness. Aim for 1 to 2 cups, 3 to 4 times a week. If you find them too bitter, mix them 50-50 with spinach or arugula until your palate adjusts. Most people get used to the bitterness within 2 weeks and start craving it, which is actually your body recognizing that it needs what the bitterness delivers. The third food is apple cider vinegar. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out, because the way your great-grandparents used this is nothing like the trendy wellness shots you see on social media. During the Depression, apple cider vinegar was a household staple, not for salad dressing, but for preservation, digestion, and cleaning. Families who couldn't afford a doctor would drink a tablespoon in water before meals to settle their stomachs. Farm wives in the Midwest used it to preserve vegetables through the winter. And in Appalachian folk medicine, a mix of apple cider vinegar and honey in warm water was the go-to remedy for just about every digestive complaint imaginable. What they didn't know then, and what we know now, is that the acetic acid in apple cider vinegar directly impacts how your liver processes fat and sugar. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that acetic acid activates an enzyme called AMPK in liver cells. AMPK is sometimes called the metabolic master switch because when it's activated, it tells your liver to stop making new fat and start burning the fat it already has stored. It also improves insulin sensitivity, which means your liver doesn't have to work as hard to clear sugar out of your blood. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. Apple cider vinegar also supports the production of glutathione, which is your liver's most important internal antioxidant. Glutathione is what your liver uses to neutralize toxins, heavy metals, and the byproducts of medication metabolism. When glutathione levels drop, your liver becomes vulnerable to oxidative damage, which accelerates fatty liver into something much worse. Here's exactly how to use it. 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with the murky stuff at the bottom called the mother, mixed into 8 ounces of room temperature water. Drink it 15 to 20 minutes before your largest meal of the day. If the taste is too strong, add half a teaspoon of raw honey. Do not drink it straight, ever. The acidity can damage your tooth enamel and irritate your esophagus. Always dilute it. And if you take metformin or any blood sugar medication, talk to your doctor before adding this, because the combined blood sugar lowering effect can be too strong. Now, the fourth food is the one I told you about, the one that surprised me the most. It's beets. Simple, humble, dirt cheap beets. And they were everywhere during the Depression because they were one of the easiest root vegetables to grow. They stored beautifully in a root cellar all winter long, and they could feed a family for pennies. Grandmothers in Eastern European immigrant communities would make borscht, that deep magenta soup that stained everything it touched. German-American families pickled them in vinegar and spices and lined them up in mason jars on cellar shelves like little jars of jewels. Even families who didn't particularly love the taste ate them because they were available and they were filling. What those families didn't know is that beets contain a compound called betaine, also known as trimethylglycine, and betaine is one of the most powerful liver protective nutrients ever studied. Betaine works as a methyl donor, which means it helps your liver perform a critical process called methylation. Methylation is how your liver detoxifies hormones, processes homocysteine, a compound that damages blood vessels when it accumulates, and repairs its own damaged DNA. When methylation slows down, everything in the liver slows down. Research from the University of Maryland Medical Center has documented that betaine supplementation can reduce liver fat accumulation and lower liver enzyme levels in people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But here's what I find even more interesting. Beets also contain a unique class of antioxidants called betalains, which are the pigments that give beets their color, and betalains have been shown to reduce inflammation, specifically in liver tissue. Not general inflammation. Liver-specific inflammation. That's remarkable for a vegetable that costs less than $2 a pound. Here's how to eat them. Roast them whole, unpeeled, wrapped in foil at 400 degrees for 45 to 60 minutes until a fork slides through easily. Let them cool, slip the skins off, and slice them. You can eat them warm with a drizzle of olive oil and a pinch of salt, or cold in a salad with goat cheese and walnuts. You can also grate raw beets into a smoothie, but be warned, they'll turn everything bright pink. Aim for half a cup to 1 cup of cooked beets 4 to 5 times a week. If you don't like the earthy flavor, golden beets are milder and have many of the same compounds. And don't throw away the beet greens. They're edible, they're nutritious, and they contain even more liver-supporting nutrients than the root itself. The fifth food is bone broth. And if there's one food on this list that carries the deepest ancestral memory, this is it. Every culture on Earth has a version of bone broth, every single one, because when you had bones and water and fire, you had medicine. During the Depression, American families didn't throw away a single chicken carcass, a single beef knuckle, a single ham bone. Those bones went into a pot with water and whatever vegetables were on hand, carrots, celery, and onion, and they simmered on the back of the stove for hours, sometimes all day, sometimes overnight. The house would fill with this warm, savory, golden aroma that was equal parts comfort and nourishment. and the broth that came out of that pot was thick. When it cooled, it jiggled like gelatin. That jiggle was the sign that you'd extracted the good stuff. That good stuff is glycine, proline, and glutamine, three amino acids that are profoundly important for liver health. Glycine is a precursor to glutathione, that master antioxidant I mentioned earlier. Your liver cannot make enough glutathione without adequate glycine intake. Proline supports the structural integrity of liver tissue, and glutamine feeds the cells of your intestinal lining, which matters for your liver because when your gut lining becomes permeable, what people call leaky gut, bacterial toxins called endotoxins leak into your bloodstream and go straight to your liver, triggering inflammation and fat accumulation. Research published in the journal Nutrients has shown that glutamine supplementation can reduce intestinal permeability and lower markers of liver inflammation. Bone broth also contains natural gelatin, which supports bile acid secretion, and minerals like calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus in forms that are easily absorbed. Here's how to make it. Save your bones. Every time you roast a chicken, eat a steak with a bone, or buy bone-in cuts. Save the bones in a bag in your freezer. When you have enough, put them in a large pot or slow cooker, cover them with cold water, add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, which helps extract minerals from the bone, and simmer on low for at least 12 hours. 18 to 24 is better. Add an onion, a couple of carrots, a few stalks of celery, and a bay leaf if you have them. Strain the broth and store it in mason jars in the fridge where it will keep for 5 days, or in the freezer for months. Drink 1 cup warm every morning like a coffee ritual. You can sip it plain with just a pinch of salt, or use it as the base for soups and stews. The key is consistency. 1 cup a day, every day. Your liver will notice within weeks. Now, before I give you the 6th and final food, I want to tell you about a woman named Dorothy. Dorothy is 71 years old. She was a school teacher in rural Ohio for 34 years, retired in 2014. By 2020, she'd gained 40 pounds. Her fasting blood sugar was creeping up toward pre-diabetic levels, and her doctor told her that her liver enzymes, specifically her ALT and AST, were elevated. An ultrasound confirmed what the numbers suggested: moderate fatty liver disease. Dorothy was scared. Her father had died of liver cancer at 78, and she knew that fatty liver, left unchecked, can progress to fibrosis, cirrhosis, and in rare cases, cancer. Her doctor recommended weight loss and exercise, which is the standard advice, and it's good advice, but nobody told her what to eat specifically. Nobody explained why her liver was storing fat or how to reverse it. Dorothy started researching on her own. She found information about many of the foods I've shared with you today. She started making bone broth every Sunday and drinking a cup each morning. She added beets to her dinner rotation 3 times a week. She began taking a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in water before dinner. She found a butcher who sold grass-fed beef liver and learned to make it with onions the way her grandmother used to. She didn't do anything extreme. She didn't go on a crash diet. She didn't eliminate entire food groups. She just added these foods back in, consistently, week after week. 6 months later, Dorothy's ALT had dropped from 52 to 28. Her AST went from 48 to 25, both in normal range. Her fasting blood sugar came down 11 points. She lost 18 pounds without counting a single calorie. And when I asked her what surprised her most, she said, "It wasn't that the foods worked, it was that they were the same foods my mother used to make. I just forgot them." That's the part of this story that moves me, if I'm being honest. We didn't lose this knowledge because it failed. We lost it because the world got faster and the food got cheaper and nobody had time to simmer broth for 18 hours anymore. But your liver doesn't know what year it is. It responds to the same nutrients it always has. And those nutrients are in these foods. The 6th and final food is sardines. And I saved this one for last because it might be the most powerful liver protective food on this entire list, and it is tragically underappreciated. During the Depression, canned sardines were one of the cheapest sources of protein in America. You could buy a tin for a few cents, and families along the coast, in New England, in the Pacific Northwest, in the Gulf states, ate them regularly. They ate them on crackers, on toast, mashed into a spread with mustard and onion, or straight out of the can standing at the kitchen counter. There was no glamour to it. It was working-class food, poor people's food, and that's exactly why it disappeared from most American kitchens after the war, when prosperity made people ashamed of the foods that kept them alive. But sardines are an absolute powerhouse for your liver. First, they are the richest common food source of omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, and omega-3s have been shown in multiple studies to reduce liver fat accumulation directly. A meta-analysis published in the journal Hepatology reviewed data from multiple clinical trials and found that omega-3 supplementation significantly reduced liver fat content in patients with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But here's the key distinction. The omega-3s in sardines are in their natural triglyceride form, which means your body absorbs them far more efficiently than the ethyl ester form found in most fish oil capsules. Second, sardines are packed with selenium, a trace mineral that is essential for the production of glutathione peroxidase, one of the most important antioxidant enzymes in your liver. Selenium deficiency has been linked to increased susceptibility to liver damage from toxins, medications, and alcohol. Third, sardines contain coenzyme Q10, also called CoQ10, which supports mitochondrial energy production in liver cells. Your liver cells are among the most mitochondria-rich cells in your entire body. Each liver cell contains between 1,000 and 2,000 mitochondria. When those mitochondria aren't functioning well, the liver can't perform its detoxification, protein synthesis, or fat metabolism duties. CoQ10 is the spark plug that keeps those mitochondria firing. And fourth, because sardines are small fish low on the food chain, they contain minimal mercury and environmental toxins compared to larger fish like tuna, swordfish, or king mackerel. So you get all the benefits of fish without loading your liver with the very heavy metals it's trying to clear. Here's how to eat them. Buy wild-caught sardines packed in olive oil or water. Open the can, drain most of the liquid, and eat them on a piece of whole grain toast with a squeeze of lemon, a few slices of red onion, and a sprinkle of capers or a dab of mustard. That's a meal, 3 to 4 times a week. Each can give you about 15 to 20 grams of protein, a full day's worth of omega-3s, more than 100% of your daily B12, and significant amounts of vitamin D, calcium, and phosphorus because you're eating the bones. Yes, you eat the bones. They're soft, and you won't even notice them. If you've never eaten sardines before, start with the ones packed in olive oil, because the oil mellows the fish flavor considerably. And if you're truly resistant, mash them into pasta sauce or mix them into a chopped salad where the flavor blends in. Give yourself a week to adjust. Most people who try sardines consistently for 7 days end up liking them. Your palate adapts faster than you think. Now I need to say something important before we wrap up, and I need you to take this seriously. If you are currently taking any medications, especially blood thinners like warfarin, blood sugar medications like metformin or insulin, blood pressure medications, or any prescription medication for a liver condition, please do not make changes to your diet without talking to your doctor first. These foods are powerful. That's the whole point. But powerful means they can interact with medications. Sardines and bone broth can affect blood clotting. Apple cider vinegar can lower blood sugar in combination with medication and push it too low. Beets can affect blood pressure. Beef liver is extremely high in vitamin A, and excess vitamin A can be harmful if you're already supplementing it. None of this means you shouldn't eat these foods. It means you should eat them intelligently, with your doctor in the loop so they can monitor your levels and adjust your medications if needed. This is a partnership. You bring the food, your doctor brings the oversight. That's how real health works. So let me tie this all together for you, because there's a unifying principle beneath every food on this list, and once you see it, you'll never think about your liver the same way again. Every single one of these 6 foods does one or more of 3 things. They reduce the fat burden on your liver by improving how your body processes and exports fat. They increase glutathione production, which is your liver's primary defense against oxidative damage and toxic buildup. And they reduce inflammation in liver tissue specifically, not just general inflammation, but the targeted localized inflammation that turns a fatty liver into a damaged liver. Your great-grandparents didn't know the word glutathione. They'd never heard of AMPK or betaine or methylation, but they ate liver and onions on Tuesday, borscht on Thursday, sardines on crackers for lunch, sipped broth when they felt run down, stirred vinegar into water before supper, and picked dandelion greens from the yard in April. They did all of this without a single study telling them to. And their livers worked. They worked beautifully, quietly, and efficiently, the way livers are supposed to. You can get back to that. Not all at once, not perfectly, just consistently. Here's your action plan. This week, do 3 things. First, make a pot of bone broth this weekend. Use whatever bones you have or buy a bag of soup bones from the butcher for a few dollars. Let it simmer all day Sunday. Jar it. Drink a cup Monday morning. Second, buy a bunch of beets and roast them. Eat them cold with your lunches throughout the week. Third, get 1 can of sardines, any brand, and eat them on toast for lunch one day. That's it. 3 things. Next week, add the apple cider vinegar before dinner. The week after, try the dandelion greens. And when you're ready, find a source for good beef liver and give it a try. You don't have to do all 6 at once. You just have to start. Your liver has been waiting for you to remember what your grandmother already knew. Now in my next video, I'm going to talk about something that almost nobody connects to liver health, and it's going to surprise you. It's your sleep. Specifically, what happens to your liver between 1 and 3 in the morning while you're asleep, or more accurately, while you're supposed to be asleep. Because if you've been waking up in the middle of the night at roughly the same time, that's not random. That's your liver talking, and I'm going to explain exactly what it's saying and what to do about it. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one. I'll see you there.